Welcome to the Ferris Love Podcast. Here we explore spiritual insights and practical strategies to help you cultivate a family life rooted in beautiful, self-giving love. Join us as we invite experts to share uplifting perspectives and actionable advice for navigating the joys and challenges of modern family dynamics. Welcome back to the Ferris Love Podcast. I'm your host, Mary Grace Warner, and today on the show, I'm joined by Lisa Canning, mother of 11, entrepreneur, and coach, best known as the Possibility Mom. Today, Lisa is going to share with us how to dream again after a season of defeat and what that looks like practically as well as within family life. So, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us on the Ferris Love Podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here.
So I would like to just dive right into that name that you have, the Possibility Mom. I mean, you have 11 kids. There's clearly you can do anything as an entrepreneur. Can you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about how you started your coaching as well as just your business in general?
Yeah. I had the very unique opportunity to host an HGTV show when I was 23. So right out of college, I didn't know what I was doing. And it was kind of an accidental career. I didn't really intend on starting a television, platform or anything like that. But just the opportunities came. I was very young and very adventurous. And so I was like, why not? And it launched a career that was pretty intense. So I worked for about 10 years in front of the camera and behind the camera on many HGTV lifestyle shows. Many people would, know and love. Probably most notable, the Property Brothers. I was on their team for a really long time. At the exact same time as growing my on-camera career and behind-the-scenes career, I was having a lot of children. So I married my husband, Josh, in 2007. We just celebrated 18 years. And as a faithful Catholic, and that's a whole other podcast that we could talk about, but we were open to having a large family. That is literally a whole other podcast because I didn't always feel that way. And I didn't always feel that way because I had so many voices telling me, you really should not get pregnant because it will ruin your television career. And so as a result, I, rightly or wrongly, I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder. I was like, I'm going to prove it to everybody that you can do anything. And that all came, unfortunately, to a very challenging implosion in a story I affectionately call my minivan meltdown. I was in my car just days after having my fourth baby in 5 years, exhausted, overwhelmed, and basically screaming at our Lord. I don't think you want me to be this miserable. I don't think you want me to be unhappy, but you've got to show me what it looks like to have a large family on your timing, as well as pursue some of these interests and gifts that you have very clearly given me. And so that began a whole chapter of what does it look like to say no? What does it look like to be very discerning? What does it actually, in very practical terms, look like to involve the Lord in your decision making? And people started to take notice and ask me a lot of questions. And that's where my book, The Possibility Mom, came from. And then that's how it evolved into coaching and speaking primarily for Catholic moms.
That's great. Yes, wow. And I'm sure we'll kind of keep going into your story a little bit more as we continue the podcast. But like you said, you help moms in their mission to be mothers as well as to help with their entrepreneurial skills and things like that. So what your title is Possibility Mom. So what does that mean to you for those women that you help?
So 10 years ago, or maybe even a little bit before that, when I was pursuing television and I was looking for these different ways to work and have a family, I would have said possibility meant don't let yourself be constricted by your thoughts. And I still hold that to be accurate. I do still think that there are all kinds of ways that we come at life based on how we were raised, based on teachers we had, based on the voices that speak the loudest in our brains. And there comes a point where we can decide, I'm going to listen to these voices or I'm going to listen to other voices. And so I do still think that's very accurate. Possibility means you might have to think outside the box. You might have to think just beyond the way that maybe you were trained or you just have led to believe to this moment in time. But today, 2025, 2026 version of Lisa Canning, I really believe now possibility is when you surrender all to the Lord. And I've had to learn this the really hard way. Just in the last couple of years, we've been through a tremendous amount of change. We moved from Ave Maria, Florida, back to my roots in just outside Toronto, Canada. While back in Canada, we lived in 10 homes in 10 months while I was pregnant with baby number 10. The Lord allowed a lot of things to happen that I absolutely could not control. I could not outthink. I could not outplan. I could not strategize. You can be all possibility minded, but when you are sleeping at 9 months pregnant on a temporary, bed and you don't know where you're going to bring your newborn home, there's an element that has to happen that is indeed surrender. And I think the faster that we can understand that the Lord is for us, that he is with us, and yes, you can be very dream minded. You can think of all these possibilities, but you do also in tandem. It's a both and. You have to understand that you can have these dreams. These dreams can be from the Lord, but also there might be something in the pain and suffering that he needs you to experience because it's going to draw you closer to him. So 2026 version of Lisa Canning is going to say that possibility means that you trust the Lord with everything and you surrender all your dreams and all your plans to him.
That's amazing. And also I think kind of countercultural, because people probably assume the being in control is possibility. Like you have the control, you have the skills, the talents, and the abilities to do those things. That's amazing. And you mentioned some of the kind of suffering and some struggles that you have gone through. How have you seen certain with the women that you help, how they have kind of approached those things? Because we're talking about dreaming again after seasons of defeat, and defeat can look different for everyone depending upon what they're dealing with and struggling with. But how have you seen kind of maybe that mentality now, and just how have you seen that kind of helping women with their families and kind of overcoming that?
So to answer your question, I want to just expand on something that we touched on quickly, and that is control. I think we're in a time of a crisis of control. I'll be brief, but I think we could really dissect culture and the way that social media, the way our phones shape, I think, attachments. Let's just take one example. So Instagram. I love me some Instagram. When I was interior designing, oh my word, I was just always searching for interiors. If I had gotten married 18 years ago and Instagram and Pinterest, I think Pinterest might have been around back then, but anyway, I would have been absolutely obsessed with curating the perfect thing. Okay, so let's just use that example. We now, a young mom, now has access to the lives and the kitchens and the bedrooms and the closets and the playroom and the Montessori style wooden activity center and the baby led weaning, this and that. She now has access to this in an intimate way. She can see it on her phone so close. And without proper discernment or guidance or the wisdom or the practical, hands-on, the way we used to do life together as women. We used to do life where we all washed our clothes together, or we did communal cooking, where children safely ran around in, the courtyard where all the homes, surrounded. So people were safe. And there was a lot of, I would say, natural mentorship that happened. Without that element, we are now looking at these very curated things, and we're starting to be I clearly don't have my act together because my life doesn't look that. And then to make things even more dangerous, and this might be a little, I don't know, controversial. I mean, I'm talking about this on a piece of Catholic media. Okay. Yeah. We now have Catholic media personalities to compare our lives against. So now we can be well, I'm not holy enough because I'm not doing life like Lisa Canning. And this is a whole other layer that I think, again, informs control. So we now have sort of, without the right discernment, without the right guidance, without the right voices shaping us, we now have this potential ideal or picture of what life should look like, even in our prayer life, even in our normal, path to holiness. We may compare and then grasp for control, right? We start to be okay, well, I have to have it this way because this is what holiness looks like. If our husband doesn't agree, it becomes a conflict. If our mom doesn't agree, it becomes a conflict. If our kids don't immediately, obedient little ducklings, follow suit, then we get frustrated. And so I think that really, truly, it's a crisis of control I see in myself. If I'm being very honest, I'm holding the mirror right back to myself. And in the business clients I coach, I would say that control can also manifest in certainty. And that's, I just see it a lot in my business clients. It's like, I must do this. It has to happen. If it doesn't work, then it's a big waste. This can show up in motherhood. This can show up in homemaking. This can show up in homeschooling, right? So pick your lane. It can show up. But they all stem from this place of control. I have to be in control. I have to make it count. If it fails, then everything is awful. And that's why, again, like the antidote for all of this is this posture of surrender, this posture of like, I'm going to go in with the skills you've given me, Lord, with the aptitude you've given me, with my ability to reason, with wisdom, with all these things. I'm going to go into it and I'm going to trust you, but I'm also going to trust you if it doesn't work. And I'm going to surrender the frustration. I'm going to surrender the quote unquote lost time. I'm going to surrender my preferences, all because I know that you have a great plan for me and for my holiness.
That's beautiful. Man, I just think about, I'm one to I look for my mom's advice a lot. I call my mom all the time. But I can also agree with you where it's like, I'm on Instagram, I'm on, those platforms, and you do see the comparison and you wonder, I've only have one child right now. But that's like where it's like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Is this right? Is he eating the number of food ounces that he needs to eat and all this stuff? And we've forgotten, kind of how to just honestly surrender, like you said, to even just our knowledge of what we know, I guess, internally, kind of a little bit like that. I know that you've mentioned in previously just kind of that minivan kind of minivan moment where you kind of were asking God, kind of what am I doing, kind of those things. Do you have any other moments that have helped shape you today based on maybe dreaming and then maybe the dreams kind of not really coming true, but also coming out of that and finding more strength?
Oh, how long is this podcast? We've lived a lot of life in the last 3 years, and there are several stories. I'm going to just be candid. I don't know if I'm really ready to tell them, but I can share like a very blanket, like what I've learned from all of them collective. So, because there's just so many, like there's not enough money, there's been not enough beds, there's been not enough time, obviously. There have been, things that I really thought were going to work out that didn't work out, a lot of disappointment. What I think I've learned in this last season of a lot of struggle has been what it means to be a person of hope. And Pope Benedict wrote an incredible encyclical called Spe Salvi, where he talks about people of hope behave differently. And even just that one phrase, people of hope behave different, you can just like imagine what that might look like. I think even just that sentence is enough to shift somebody from like this degree to like 10 degrees over. And that 10 degrees over might be like, instead of sitting here and grumbling and pity party, and sometimes you need to do that. You need to give your central nervous system a moment to recover and feel the pain. That's actually really important. Eventually, to live the life that God desires for us and make the impact that potentially, he has for our lives, we've got to figure out how to pivot. Another thing that's mentioned in that specific encyclical is people of hope go from why, Lord, to now what? So from why to what? And it was a very slow burn for me, like just trying to like, okay, Lord, what? Like another house didn't work out. Okay, so that it didn't happen quickly for me. It was very challenging. Eventually, you start to see, okay, there's some wisdom here. Okay, Lord, you're giving me yet another example of that I can trust you. Oh, wow. All right. I've got more, deposits, so to speak, in the bank account of you really do provide for everything I need, even if it doesn't look like it at the time.
That's definitely a hard thing. I know you're speaking from the past 3 years that you mentioned. Thank you for being vulnerable about it too. I appreciate it. But yeah, I think it's definitely the hardest thing is to look at your life from outside when you're in the midst of it. I know that probably a lot of our parents struggle with that when they're in the midst of the difficult times, and So I want to mention something kind of a little bit outside of this topic, not too much, but you on your website you have this line where you talk about creating things that are beautiful and bringing beauty into the craziness, into the chaos. How can like that beauty infiltrate your environment in a good way and bring about kind of this hope that you're talking about, or just that hope like you that falls into being able to look forward to the future and look forward to those dreams that might be, budding again.
I think our homes, this might sound silly, but it's not silly. It's actually very important.
Yeah.
I think our homes should be a place where our central nervous system can rest. So, what does that look like? It looks like not clutter everywhere. It looks like spaces that are oriented around literally rest. So, the ability to sit and converse with somebody else in your family, the ability to eat a nourishing meal, and you have the things at your disposal to eat that nourishing meal. It can obviously look like nourishment for your senses. So, meaning, yes, you can have like the beautiful teacup, and yes, you can have the beautiful, serving bowls. I'm such a sucker for bowls on a charcuterie board like that. Like anybody who wants to get me a gift at any time of the year, just get me little bowls that I can put on my charcuterie board and I will be so happy. But there's the central, like truly, like your home is a space, one of the very few spaces that you do have some element of control over. Like even when you have children and they obviously, destroy things quickly, you still have that ability to pick it up and like hide it. You know what I mean? Hide it, hide the thing that they made the huge mess with. And then the relationship between your central nervous system and your ability to connect with the Lord, I do think is worth exploring. Now, hear me very clearly. Can you pray in a messy living room? 100%. Can you pray in a bedroom that is, full of laundry and full of like toys? Like, absolutely you can. So don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying like you can only pray if it's clean. But I'm also saying that when we're constantly in a state of stress, I think that impacts our ability to just literally settle and hear the voice of the Lord. When I coach moms and they're like, I can't hear God talking. And I'm like, well, are you trying? Like literally, like what is going on in your brain? Are you actually pausing to pray? We read it in the catechism. It actually says in the catechism, you cannot pray unceasingly without stopping to pray intentionally. That's a bit of a paraphrase, but the point is that there needs to be a time when you literally stop. It could be at 6 a.m., it could be at 4 p.m., it could be at 12 p.m. Like you pick your time, but there needs to be a time in the day where we stop and we literally just quiet the mind. And that's what I'm trying to argue here. Sometimes, what my observation of the modern mother, the modern Catholic mom, is that she has a really hard time quieting the mind. And all of these things that I'm talking about, the ongoing list, the mental load, all the things that, one can see and look around, can you silence it? 100%. And should you silence it? Yes, silence all of it to connect with the Lord. But I do think all of this has an impact on a woman and on her system. So they're important things to address.
Well, and that goes into my next question. With all the things that women have, like the decision fatigue. Decision fatigue is a big thing that I think families struggle with. Parents struggle. They have to make the decisions for their children. I'm sure you understand. And so, what are some tools or habits that maybe, if you have any suggestions for those parents that help with regaining, just that peace again, finding solutions to maybe eliminate that, even the opportunity for too much decision making?
Yeah, I'll give two answers, one very more spiritual and one very practical. So honestly, a good spiritual director. I can't emphasize this enough. I got my spiritual director when I had my, I want to say, third baby. And I've had the same spiritual director for a very, very long time. And it just, to be able to process, to be able to really authentically speak, like really honestly, with what's going on in your heart, your walk with the Lord, what your struggles are, it just can be very, very, very helpful. And in navigating big life decisions, especially a spiritual director can be really helpful. And then more practically, I try to eliminate as much as possible places where maybe decisions aren't consequential. So, like, what are we having for dinner today? Go look on the calendar, that type
Yes.
of a
Okay.
thing. Like,
Okay.
just where, and things like that, they sound small, but things like, what are we having for dinner today, impacts your grocery shopping. So then it's a very simple grocery shopping thing. I literally just click on an online app, reorder, last order. We have where I live, this is a silly one, but my Monday night pizza place is always 50% off, always on Mondays. And so it is just, and I literally click on the same app, reordered last Monday's order. So any of these small places where you can use automation, where you can use tools that we have to make it simple and not make decisions, is going to be very helpful.
Great. Thank you. And then, so kind of just, we're kind of going to start rounding out the conversation a little bit, but I'm curious with just your experience as not only just a mom, but also an entrepreneur and, having your experience in TV and all those things. Is there any like dream that you are like most grateful for and that you didn't give up on and you're like, I'm so grateful I just kind of stuck with it and kept going?
I mean, all of it. Like, I don't know. I could speak to many things, but there's just a very practical thing I'll say about business. So I coach a lot of moms who are primarily in online business, and we connect weekly in a mastermind call, and to have community is so important because perseverance can be very hard. I find perseverance the most difficult part of both motherhood and any type of like business endeavor, because when things get hard, it can just feel terrible, and then you have more terrible thoughts, and then you have more terrible thoughts, and does not the devil delight in when we stay small and when we don't move and we don't take the action that might result in the next thing. So I would say I'm most proud of just persevering in, I know this sounds really blanketed, but like in every area of my life, but if you forced me to be a little bit more specific, I would say persevering when many people would say like, you should just stop. You've got enough kids now. You've contributed to like Catholic society with all your kids. Like, you could just stop. Let's stop everything. Just stay with your kids. And sometimes we need to do that. Sometimes we have to prayerfully discern, is this a season for me to take a pause or a pivot? I wrote an article on Substack that was that title. Is it time to pause, pivot, maybe, or quit? I feel like that was it. Pause, pivot, or quit. And it is the most read article I have, because it is very difficult. Sometimes we make these decisions when we're tired and probably shouldn't make it. Sometimes we make these decisions when, we're scared. And I don't think that's a time to make it. You have to take all of these emotions into account, of course, but to discern correctly, to discern appropriately, to have enough space and time to discern are just really important.
And it also like kind of touches on that idea spiritually wise, like a director might be helpful in discerning those things as well. And sometimes other people like community helps also eliminate any decision fatigue because they're making it easier for you because maybe they have some other insight that helps prevent, the overthinking or things like that. So just kind of the last question before we kind of talk a little bit more about you and what you're doing. What encouragement would you give to parents who are feeling discouraged, maybe have had some ideas about where their lives were going, and at this point they're just feeling a little disheartened? What would you say to them, and that they can have a little more hope and a little more excitement for potentially new dreams for them?
To develop a solid prayer life. And again, I'm going to be maybe a little radical. I don't know. You can send me the letters. Just send me the letters. DM me on Instagram at Lisa Ganning. You can get all angry with me if you want. But to develop that prayer life that involves regular, daily prayer, like where you are talking to the Lord. So not just like, and these are not, I'm not trying to, diminish these practices, like listening to something on Hallow or what have you. Those are all great practices. But where you are actually in dialogue with the Lord. So what do I mean by that? Literally, Lord, I am so tired. I don't know why this thing isn't working out. I need you to show me, what is it that you want me to learn from this, grow from this? Lord, I'm feeling very hopeless. Remind me of the truth of who I am. I really like to, I've heard it described as it's like you're having a cup of coffee with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about it, if you're having a cup of coffee with a friend, that friend is going to talk back at some point. They're going to say something like, I'm so sorry, or hey, have you tried this? And with expectancy, expect the Lord to talk back to you. So that would be my first thing, is just develop that very regular cadence of prayer and discussion, literally, with the Lord. And then to not be afraid to take the time to pause and dream with your spouse. And it doesn't have to be complicated, but in 18 years of marriage, one of the things that I am really grateful for is that we built the habit of a weekly date night a very, very long time ago. And it happens without fail. Sometimes it's just a cup of coffee. Sometimes it's a cup of coffee like in our car, and sometimes it is a lovely meal like somewhere really nice. And sometimes it's something in between, but it's not like we're going grocery shopping together. It's not. It's like literally we are going to stop and we are going to pause and we are going to, in the hecticness of our week, check in with each other. How are you doing? Like how did that, like just the things that sometimes when you're interrupted, or again, the hecticness of life, like doesn't allow you to allow for, is just that time to pause and connect with each other. And in these conversations, like dreams can happen again. Dreams can emerge again. Possibilities, again, to revisit that word. There truly are like so many possibilities in life. Like change in any arena. Like if anyone's listening to this and are feeling truly discouraged, I slept on like multiple random cots and temporary beds and whatever. Like I remember thinking, there's no way we're going to get out of this situation. And then we did. And you've got to remember, you've got to look for the evidence. You've got to recall the evidence. We spend a lot of our Catholic faith recalling. My spiritual director reminded me of this. When we're in the Mass, it is literally recalling. We are recalling what happened at the Last Supper. We're recalling scripture. Parts of our history are being recalled. Recall when the Lord has shown you or made the path really easy, or has just like guided you exactly where you knew you had to go. So don't be afraid to pause, like really take that time to pause with your spouse and have those conversations.
Thank you. So beautiful. Feeling it over here. Thank you, Lisa, so much for sharing your wisdom and being so vulnerable with us on the show. We love to share kind of what you do with our audience. So whether you have a website, I know you said you're on Instagram. Is there anything else that our audience could maybe look you up for and maybe even seek out your services?
If you are curious what life looks like with 11 kids and running multiple businesses and apostolates, Instagram is probably the best place. So that's at Lisa Canning. And I have launched something that I'm so excited about, and it's this theme of surrender. I love helping people manage their time. But time management is like a thing. It's sometimes it's like, like I don't want to manage my time. What if you could surrender your schedule? And so I've just launched a brand new program called the Surrendered Schedule. And you can learn all about that on my Instagram at Lisa Canning. You can visit the link in my bio.
Awesome. We'll share that for sure in the link show notes as well. So thank you, Lisa, so much for your time and for joining us on the Ferris Love podcast.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Ferris Love podcast. In 2026, we continue to share the devotion to Mary, Mother of Ferris Love. If you like what you heard on today's show, please visit our website at ferrislovefamilyproject.org, where you can find additional podcasts and other resources for families. Be sure to also check us out on social media at Ferris Love Project. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on an episode soon.